7. And we are live.
We are
Goes
live.
live really quickly, this show. Yeah, we are live.
We are live.
Well, everybody off with an introduction to yourself and your books for us while I send the stream.
Yes, so my name's Anne Coates, and I write a series of books with the protagonist called Hannah Weybridge. And there are now 6 books, and this is going to be back to front, but oh no, it's not back to front. That's brilliant. So, Murder in the Lady Chapel is book 6 in the series. So it started off in 93, and we've only got to the end of 94 now in the series. Hannah is a single mother with a small child, and by the time we get to this book, she's just coming up to the age of 2, and I think she's quite enchanting, really. She's quite a sweetie. When my daughter teaches, and one of her colleagues said to her once, I see your mother has modelled Hannah on you. And she sort of looked at him and sort of said, "Don't be daft, I'm the baby." So yes, she is my baby, really. So in this book, it's set just before Christmas. A man dies in the Lady Chapel, and the vicar, who knows of Hannah via one of his parishioners, begs her to investigate because nobody seems to know who this man is or why he was in the choir. And which is, it was a suspicious death with a suspicious person. And Hannah, in the end, joins the choir to investigate. And that's about it. I don't really want to say too much more about the book because it will give too much away. So
it's quite hard. We're going to ask you questions, but it's quite hard the further you go through the series because it is a series where the characters and some of the plots carry on, isn't it? Like the result.
Right. Yeah. And also
the consequences carry on I'm trying to think of the best way to word it. So the further you go through the series, the higher a risk of spoilers, even talking about.
Absolutely. And I think I was saying to somebody said to me, "Oh, it would be really good if you put character lists in your books, But I'd be really worried that somebody would pick up a book in, book number 4 and think, oh, well, where is so-and-so now then? And did that person die, or whatever? So, yeah, it is quite difficult to talk about some of the things. But obviously we know that Hannah has survived, so she's still going strong. And if you haven't read any of the books, it would be great to start with the first one, which is Dances in the Wind, because that sort of sets the scene. And most of the characters appear, most of the lead characters appear in the first 2 books, and then other people come in and to make the investigations more exciting, I think, and in different situations.
I genuinely like how the series carries on, that you sort of catch up with people every book.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like that in life, isn't it? You don't see somebody every day or every week, but you catch up with somebody, and if they're people you just catch up with what they've been doing and all the rest of it. And it's a bit like in a soap series as well. You don't see them all every day, every week in the series, but you just catch up with their story every now and again. And that's what I like about doing that. They're sort of my imaginary friends, really, and I just live in Hannah's world some of the time, to have little chats with my friends.
Sam has said that she loves the series.
Sam?
Yeah, so her comment on here says, I love the Hannah Weybridge series.
Thank you very much. I love it.
No, me too. And I think Hannah's kind of gone from strength to strength across the books, hasn't she?
Yeah, I think, because at first she was really quite naive. And the first investigation led from a commission from a national newspaper. And she was naive, and she got done over, really, not done over, but I mean, she didn't read the small print, basically. And then she has continued to work for the newspaper, basically because the money's good, apart from anything else, and she's a single parent, and she was quite poor when the book starts. So she's not motivated by money, but once you get into the series, I think the money means that gives her the freedom to actually investigate things for people who have no voice, who can't necessarily investigate things for themselves. And that's what I like as well.
And she's kind of at the point in this one where she's been so successful at doing that and writing the stories and things like that, that she's now getting offered money to sort of stay with the paper rather than be poached by other people, isn't she?
Yes, yeah. And I think that is it, because she sort of stumbles on stories, and they all underestimate her because she worked on women's magazines, and they all think she's a bit of a soft touch, which she, as you say, as the series progresses, she toughens up quite a lot, and she doesn't suffer fools gladly by the time we're going through, got to this book, say, for instance. But in a lot of respects, they're keeping hold of her. They're paying her a good salary, a good contract fee, to keep her away from anybody else, any other newspapers, basically, or news outlets. Although in Stage Call, she was actually writing or co-writing a biography.
Yeah, which is doing quite well in the follow-up book, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. Yes, that's what I would like. staying on the the top of the book lists and all the rest of it would be very nice.
Was that a bit of like wish, like you were writing it thinking like, I wish this was me?
Well, that because the actress, was very well known and was a national treasure. I mean, it's like a lot of celebrity books, they go to the top of the lists regardless, really. And so that was part of that, and the fact that her son is also a well-known actor and has survived. So just about, he survived at the end of Stage Call, and he's back.
Yeah, he's definitely back, isn't he, in this one?
Yeah, yes. But then he revealed, that there are little revelations that didn't come out in the book before, that about characters, that I think is quite interesting, and probably there are other implications that could come out later on. If should I go on with another one? I think I will. I think possibly I've always thought of a sort of 7 books would be enough. And so if it was number 7, would have to sort of tie up all the loose ends.
We feel like that was starting to happen a bit in this book. There's sort of hints of like all the things that have happened before kind of coming together in a way that's going to make sense to Hannah. Sorry, I'm trying to word this without giving.
No, I know you are.
I'm doing my very best. But you sort of get little hints throughout the book. If you've read all of the series, you're like, "Ooh,
yes,
that's interesting." And I think like it is leading somewhere.
Yeah, and I think yes, it definitely. And I think it's fun to write like that as well, because I don't plan anything, so it's just these hints and tips and things like that emerge as I sort of plough through. And yes, it's. I really enjoyed writing this one. Well, I enjoy writing all of them, but I did enjoy writing this one. And I got one of my priestly friends to read it for authenticity and check that I hadn't done anything really awful with the vicar. So.
So you're saying book 7? We're going to come back to talking about more about the priests and the concept, the sort of topic of the book. But you were saying book 7 might be almost like the last one.
It could be. It could be, but I don't know really. I have written a good first draft of a young adult novel, so that might be the next one that comes out. But that is also with an authenticity reader who's taking rather a long time reading it, which is my granddaughter.
That's an exciting thing, like a young adult novel. Is that going to be like crime based as well, or?
There are crimes, and it's sort of magical realism, I think, is what one describes it as. And the reason that I wrote it was because she said one day that she didn't like books anymore, and I thought, well, I ought to try and write the book she would read. I don't think I've been that successful, as she had only read half of it. Anyway, I read that, and a couple of years ago, she asked me to write her a murder mystery game for her birthday, to have a dinner party thing for her birthday, which I did. And I, having done that, I wanted to use it in something. I didn't want to I thought it was a bit of a waste just to leave it without a home. So that is part of the young adult story. Plus, at the end of the book will be all the things you need to play the game.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
anyway, that's not Hannah Weybridge. But I really enjoy the characters in Hannah Weybridge. I think that's why I go back to them, because I found I've got another series a new series that I've been thinking about, which may or may not come to something, which will be crime again, but contemporary, not set back in the 90s, which would be interesting, I think. But yeah, so, and it would be much more of a duo working together. So Hannah works with the police officer quite a lot, but and the newspaper, but she's sort of a bit of a maverick on her own, whereas this new one might be a sort of more of a duo where they work together.
That sounds good. Yeah, it was going back to the thing about the series. I think it's like the side characters are almost as much as Hannah keeps coming back. So you want to find out more about like all the people who are coming up in every book, like Janet and
yeah, because I mean Janet, I have to be careful what I say about Janet. But if we just use names, it won't make any. But yes, I mean I think Janet's a whole new. There's a strand about her that may or may come out more, and obviously Claudia Turner, the DCI Claudia Turner, has obviously got a history that's one day going to be exposed, I think. So that's fun. I think it's quite fun. I mean, I loved Lucy, the lead character who appeared in book 2, and she was one of the homeless people living in the Bullring in Waterloo. And then she sort of appeared in the next book when it was a memorial service, and then in book 4, it was a lot of it was her story, and in fact, she's the first person you encounter in that book. And it's sort of like sometimes the characters are sort of nudging me and saying, "Come on, it's my turn now." I want to be the star.
And she makes a cameo in this book as well.
Oh yes, very much so. Yes, there was going to be another chapter in there, but I cut it out in the end. I didn't, because it was sort of veering off, and I quite like novels to be tight on a time scale, and that would have it would have looked a bit like padding, I think. But I might write it as a sort of as a little short story, and put it on a newsletter or something like that. People can read as an extra.
Because this is one of the series that I feel like, to me, you would read like novellas or short stories or something just about the other characters. Like there's a whole bunch of the other characters in the story and throughout the series.
I have to have a competition, isn't it? Who would you like to know about next?
Yeah, but you could just write kind of their backstories when they're not with Hannah, their stories.
What are they up to? And of course, well, I was just going to say something about another character, but then I'll give the game away for people who haven't read all the series. So, but yes, it's perfectly possible to do. I think as well you can have little novellas, short stories about intervals, like between the stories or something, or when it was Christmas, or Christmas, the first Christmas when Hannah spent in France. That could be a story, but with a certain character who will remain nameless.
Yes, we won't name that character.
Excuse me.
That's mentioned in this book, isn't it? Because this book is kind of in the run up to Christmas.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it starts with something like the 24th of November, and it starts. That's a couple of days before the Sunday is the first Sunday in Advent, and it's Advent, so it's the 4 weeks before Christmas, and so it's really tight to make sure I've got everything in. But also, I think it keeps the momentum going quite, because so there is the epilogue, which is after the denouement sort of thing, and that's just to get you to the end of it with a few extras about what happened in the interim. So so it's nice to end on Christmas Day.
Sam wants to know if you would write murder mystery games to sell.
Murder mystery games to sell. Oh, I don't know. Do you know, it took me so long to write the other one. I think I could have written a book by the time I did it. And because I did it for my granddaughter, she wanted very particular. She wanted it set in the 20s. She wanted it to be a theatre group, and so she was very particular about what she wanted, and then she was also probably thinking about the friends of hers who would be those parts as well. It took forever to do, but I suppose if you actually, to be perfectly honest, once you work out the design of how to do them, you could change it. Yeah, it would be good fun.
Because they're quite popular, aren't they? Like the murder mystery games, so it would be quite.
I don't think they've ever been unpopular for a long time now. And during lockdown, we did a couple from Cancer UK supplied the game, the scenario and everything, and you asked your guests to make a donation to Cancer UK to play the game, or to play the murder mystery. And it was, we did it on Zoom, and it was such great fun. Obviously we didn't have dinner together, but we did all have drinks together. and it was really good fun, to do those. It was something that was different during lockdown, and it was different, and you were seeing lots of your friends. Some of them were in couples, so they were sitting together and doing it, and others were on their own, and that. So it was, they are popular, and you can tailor them for different age groups. So for younger children, you could be sort of a bit Enid Blyton-ish, if you like, but you could make sure there was nothing untoward.
See, if I was doing it, I would want an Enid Blyton-ish game, and I'm not a younger child. But I'm going to say something that sounds really sad now. I don't think I have enough friends to play one.
Oh, I'm sure that's not true. I mean, well, especially if you do it on Zoom, you can just contact anybody.
Just invite some randomers in.
Yeah, just get them in. Yeah. Well, don't worry. I realised that everybody seemed to be at a party that I wasn't invited to last night. So.
I think on Zoom, I think lockdown made us all more creative, though, didn't it?
Sorry?
I think lockdown made us all more creative about how we entertained ourselves.
Yeah, yes, I think it did. Yeah. We were all a bit sillier as well. Yeah. And in fact, that's why that's why I went back. I was actually right. I've actually got another. Well, it is a crime book, but it's about two sisters. And I was writing that during lockdown, but I actually found I couldn't do it particularly. And so I went back to Hannah, which was Stage Call, because that was back in the 90s. There was nothing to do with COVID. There were no lockdowns. I could do, I could live through my characters, if you like, and be out and about.
How do you because there is like technology in the 90s, isn't there? Like a lot of us had the internet and
yeah, I mean, it was
phones and stuff like that. And
yeah.
but there must be an element of research to make, because people will remember the 90s.
Yeah,
they're going to come and sort of point out any errors that you made.
Yes, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, somebody said something about mobile phones or something to me, but I mean, and said not many of us had mobile phones. I said, but well, I did. I had a mobile phone then. I had a mobile phone from 1990, I think. And but you certainly couldn't take a photo on one. And I did do that one day, and I was actually writing a scene, and I said, oh, she could just photograph that. I thought, no, she can't. She's got nothing to do it with. But she made a note in her notebook. Yes, I think it's always wise to be very, perhaps not so specific about some things. Sometimes, if you're going to be really specific about technology, and it's not all about technology anyway. I mean, certainly we were using computers. They use computers in the, and they were using computers at the newspaper and all the rest of it. So that's, I'm using emails and that. But a lot of us were still using dial-up. So that's, everybody remembers those. That was really boring.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. Yes.
Having a depressing conversation with my children at school about that. The dial-up internet. And
I bet they thought you're totally mad.
Well, they called me dinosaur.
Yeah, I do check a lot of things with people who know, as it were. And for instance, was in something in Stage Call, and I was doing something about the police, and I asked somebody who does something, and she said, "Oh no, that's not right." But I knew somebody else who actually works in the Met now, in a specialist role, and it just so happened she was working with people who were around in the 90s, and she checked it out for me, and so it was perfect, because I knew that if anybody disputed it, I could say, but and I had all the emails to prove it, so that's and one of my friends who's a doctor, he checks all the medical, and he often gives me all sorts of horrible things that can happen to people. So I said to him once, how can I get a character to be almost dead? Will recover,
Almost dead, but not quite.
Yeah, but not quite. Yeah. And how long would it take to recover?
Well, Donna's saying that some of her university friends asked her how she did homework before the internet.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Donna's saying she had some of the uni friends ask her how she did homework before the internet.
Yes. Absolutely. Where did you nick your ideas from, if not Wikipedia?
We had Microsoft Encarta, didn't we? Like remember that? Like it was an encyclopedia on a CD.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you could get all the art galleries. I had sort of a lovely art CD one, which was art galleries and things. You could sort of wander around, do that. It's lovely. Yeah, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
I think this is also Donna has asked if you've given one of your characters a quirk or behaviour trait you later regretted.
I don't regret, obviously, Hannah having a baby, because that's part and parcel of who she is and all the rest of it, especially in the first, but it does mean that I have to always know that there's somebody looking after the child. She can't just sort of walk out the door to go and do something. So I've always got to check the childcare arrangements. like when I was a single mother with the childcare, sort of like, who's going to look after her this time? So yes, I haven't. No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't necessarily like some of their quirks or characteristics, especially if they are violent or murderous or something like that. But no, I haven't. No, I don't think so. Not yet, is the answer.
I think it's a bit like Mike Craven says he regrets Poe, like Poe sometimes having the dog, because they have to come up with
Absolutely. We were on a panel together. We were both saying dogs and babies. Just don't do it.
The same thing, because I've just, like we were saying this before we went live, I finished reading it this morning, and there is quite a few times where she almost has to have a conversation of who's going to babysit. And I asked this person recently, so I'm going to ask someone else because they might not be able to do it again and things like that.
Yeah. But yes. So yes, it's quite interesting. Well, that's why I also I print out calendar pages months for the year that I'm writing about. So it would be the end of this one would be the end of November and December, and I pencil in what's happening, and then obviously I can rub it out and change things around. But then I know exactly what day it is, and when I'm writing, each bit that I start with the day and the time. I'm going to take that out afterwards, but I write the day and the time through, all the way through, so that because a couple of times before I found that I was having 2 curries in a day or something like that, 3 bottles of wine and 2 curries later, So I'm quite careful about dates and making sure, the weekend, if it was the weekend, for instance, you make sure, obviously the nursery's closed or childcare's different, So yes, I think Hannah's quite a lonely character as well. So she doesn't have a fantastic social life, to say the least. And I think she's
doing all right in this book.
Yes, but it's a very short time, isn't it? Sort of very short time. And of course, she's joined the choir in this book, so they've got something else to do and people to meet. So, but a lot of the things that she's doing is sort of part of the investigation. She's not sort of going out boozing with her friends or something, or clubbing or anything else. She's quite. I think she does feel. She feels alone a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I guess that goes with what you were saying about her being a bit of a lone wolf as well when she's investigating. She's not always the best at working with the other people who even want to help her.
Yes, exactly, and she doesn't. She doesn't sort of consult or leave. I mean, you would hope. I mean, because they often somebody or a character will say to her, "Make sure I know where you are," and she rarely follows that. She sort of, now and again she'll send a quick email and say, "I'm going to interview X" or do something, but she doesn't really say where she is and what she's doing, and it's almost by fluke that anybody ever finds her.
Even when she's in trouble.
Yes.
And you think she'd learn, wouldn't you?
You would think she'd, but time and time again. Yeah. but
I guess that's like real life, isn't it? Because you might sort of end up in a sticky situation, but you don't always learn from it. Sometimes you go and do the same.
I do exactly the same thing, yeah.
Like
getting drunk or something like that, you sort of think never again, and then and then the next time, yeah, yes. But I think as well, there's a little bit of sort of slight arrogance with her as well, that she thinks she knows best and she can sort things out. And I a couple of times I've had criticisms that, you know, she's put herself in danger when she's got a child. But then, you know, would you ask a man the same question, a male journalist? You know, it's yes, she may do, but then that's her job.
I think she makes that point on a show in
this book, yes.
In this book, doesn't she? Someone says to her, like, what did you do with your child when you were doing this or something? And she's like, would you ask a male journalist?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So she's quite a feminist, really.
Yeah, I think it adds to her feistiness, though, doesn't it? And you go from, this is like we were saying at the beginning, you go from sort of her being not as confident as that to seeing her develop, and it's quite nice to see that development. And you also see the development of her daughter over the books as well, which is nice.
Yes, yes. And of course now she has a voice as well.
Yeah.
So she's sort of chatting and chatting away about things, and yes, so that's another dimension. And I mean, it could, you know, not obviously not in this book, but I mean, in another book, it could be that she comes up with you know, she's overheard something, the child's overheard something and repeats it to her mother, or, you know, it's leads to other possibilities as she gets older.
It does. I mean, and I think she sort of has an interesting effect in this story at times, doesn't she? She does break the ice, and so, sorry, still trying to work out how to say this. She breaks the ice with people, doesn't she?
Yes.
Sort of in the new situations, and sort of charms people a bit.
Well, she when Hannah and she go to church, I mean, I think we can say this quite open.
Yeah.
You know, Elizabeth loves being in church. She loves the people there. She thinks it's great to shout out "Amen" whenever she can, and you know, sort of enjoys the whole business of being in church, which Hannah doesn't. You know, she's not a church person. She's not a religious person, and the child does. You know, she really does enjoy herself at church. So that's quite interesting, because it's something that Hannah as a mother hadn't considered. And right at the beginning of the book, I did think about ending it on this really, but right at the beginning of the book, the vicar asks her if she's had asks Hannah if she's had Elizabeth christened, and Hannah says, "No, I don't go to church," sort of thing. And he sort of says, "Oh, we'll think about it," type thing. And so that, you know, that was another possible ending type thing, about having a, you know, going further forward, and while her parents were still there, having Elizabeth christened as well. But just, you know, you can keep going on and on, can't you?
Well, maybe the new book can open with her christening.
Sorry?
Maybe the new book can open with it.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, she's already asked the godparents, so and Janet wants to wear her dress again, so outfit, yes.
Gonna make it happen then.
Well, there you go. Yeah, start with the christening. Yeah,
in the next book,
but no more murders in church.
Maybe not. No, you might not get invited back if you keep murdering people in church.
I know. But when you think, I mean, there was a murder in the murder in the second book, Death, Silent Judgment, was in the crypt at St John's Waterloo, and there have been lots of instances there where characters have gone missing, or was. I mean, Hannah had another bad experience there in Perdition's Child, and Perdition's Child, definitely. She had a bad experience there again. So she goes back to the same place, you know. Same church. Another problem.
This one is based on a real church as well, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Well, nearly all the places in my books are real. You know, so there's Dulwich Library, which is Perdition's Child, is the first one. Peckham Rye Park, the pond, in Songs of Innocence. Stage Call, the Old Vic. You know, so yeah, I do have. I use real places because I live in London. You know, and it's set in London. It's not like it's I haven't recreated another town or, you know, a fictitious town or something. So it's quite nice to have real places. And in my books, Hannah goes to my local restaurant, curry restaurant, you know, that's been there for years, and they love me in there.
Is it quite hard having a book set in London, making it sort of stand out? Because a lot of books are kind of set in London, if that makes sense.
I know, yes, yeah, it is in a way. It's you sort of, when people say, oh, you know, they ask questions about, well, where's your book set? You know, and people come up with the most amazing exotic places, and or even if they're not exotic, there's something weird and weary and wonderful about them. But no, it's London. But then London is so different in so many. I think we're going to have a visitor in a minute. It's my cat's just arrived. London is such a diverse place, and there's so much. It was interesting. There was one review I read of I can't remember which book it was, but somebody said he was a journalist. I don't know who he was, and he said, you know, I have never been to those places that Hannah Weybridge has gone to as a journalist. Blah blah blah. You know, and I thought, and obviously you never reply to things like that. But the thing was, I had been to every single one of them, you know, because otherwise, how could I write about them? You know, so I've used whichever hotel, you know, I've used hotels or restaurants or something like that. I've been to the places so that I can write about them. Otherwise, or I can, you know, I have done sort of pop down the road without a message, without saying something about it. But I don't. I use real places. In fact, lots of people who read it who live locally love it, because they think, oh yeah, you use such and such a place, you know, or you know, up on Borough High Street or something like that, you know. So people enjoy the sort of the local landmarks.
I think people do. We get a lot of that when we talk about, to all authors, like around the country. There's a lot of people who like to read stuff that's local to them, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I mean, when I did Songs of Innocence, the third book, I mean, I did visited a few, you know, Hannah visits a few schools, but they were all made up schools, you know, obviously for all sorts of reasons. It had to be fictitious schools and fictitious people. I wouldn't dream of putting a real school in, for instance. But other places are fair game, aren't they, really? And just walking down the street, and you know, the library's fun.
So how do people like the library, or you were talking about, because this one you sing in the choir at the church that this one's based in, how do those kind of locations feel about being written into your book?
How do the people
how do the people who work in those locations feel about them being written into your book?
Oh, well, it's well, I mean, I think I said, you know, the vicar, who is our current vicar, was sort of like, oh my goodness, murder in my church, sort of thing. And I said, well, it was, you know, 30 years ago. You don't have to worry about that sort of thing. But in fact, I think people find it quite fun as well. You know, it's the people in my choir know that I haven't written about them. You know, I hope. But we have a laugh about it, you know. That and in fact, the person who is on if you can sort of make, there's a man sitting here, go like that photo there, I took of one of our choristers, and he posed for that for me. So they were, you know, they're all quite invested in it as well. And I mean, obviously, you wouldn't be able to know who it was from that, but I know who it was from that. But because it's all follows the design of the other books. But yeah, it's I don't think the priest who read through for, you know, authenticity from the religious point of view, he said, I don't recognise anybody in there, so that was good. So
Yeah,
I haven't included somebody who's obviously recognisable.
I wondered how you managed that, because there is a lot of obviously there has to be, because it's kind of set with a murder in a chapel. There is quite a lot of kind of discussion of religion and the church services and like quotes from the Bible and stuff throughout. So I did wonder how how much research you'd had to do for that.
Well, the research, the quotes from the Bible are dead easy to find. You know, you can just look. I mean, you can get book of quotations and look up from those. I quite liked the quotes because they were used in a very specific manner throughout the book, which I liked. But one of my favourite things was writing a couple of sermons. I thought I could do this, you know. I could do this one. It's good. It's good. So I quite enjoyed being the vicar, as it were, you know, and doing the sermons. But, I mean, I do go to church. I'm in the choir, so I know what goes on. You know, I'm not uneducated in religious ways, as it were. So yes, that wasn't a problem. And I mean, I did ask somebody as well about prayers for the dying. You know, so that I got the right, because obviously I have not sat with somebody as they died and offered prayers for them. So yeah, so I did research that bit. But I'm just really lucky. I've got a real cross section of people I know, and I just ask them. And if they don't know, they'll find somebody who does.
Which is really helpful.
It is extremely helpful, yes.
Can I just say as well, the vicar's dog has got an inspired name.
Who? Sorry?
The vicar's dog. I love the name as
Oh, yes. And the funniest thing was, I found that I'd used it in something else, not a Hannah Weybridge, but it was, and I just thought, I must really like that name for the dog. Yes, I thought that was, I did enjoy that one. Yes, I did that, and I quite sort of regret that Hannah hasn't got any pets. You know, I think it would be nice for her to have a kitten or a, you know. Did you hear? He said yes. My Freddie said yes just then. Did you want to say yes? But I think, you know, that she's sort of coming up to an age when she should have an animal. But she does have the foxes, of course, who are always on patrol.
Maybe as Elizabeth gets a bit older, she'll think about a pet.
Yeah, she'll say, "Can I have a cat, mummy?" or whatever. Yeah. Yes.
She will do. So when we were little, I'm going to hedge this with the fact that we never got a pet because we moved house quite a bit, which was a real answer. But whenever we asked our parents for a pet when we were little, my mum always used to say, "We've got your dad, and that's enough." That was always her answer.
For my dad was the oldest, and he always used to. In fact, I don't think they got a dog until he left. But anyway, he used to say to his mother, you know, can I have a dog? And she'd say yes when we haven't got a baby, but there was always another baby.
I think it's such an inspired answer that my mum would. It's brilliant. They have dogs now. They waited until we all moved out.
Charming. Yes, well, I've only got one cat left now because I had, sadly, 2 died last year. But my daughter has a dog who keeps me company at times as well.
Which is lovely. Donna has asked if you ever get free curry.
To be fair, once or twice I have, to be fair. But they're very kind. I'm on their VIP list, and so I get a discount, which is very nice.
That's very nice.
Very charming of them. Yes, yeah, they're lovely people. Really, really lovely. And I think they quite like being in the books, and In fact, I actually put something in the book. I said to so Nurul, who owns the restaurant, his dad used to own it, and he always used to call me Miss Coates or something like that. I said, I'm not Miss Coates. Apart from anything else, I'm Ms. Coates, but I'm Anne. And I actually got Hannah saying that to him in the book at one time when he said, Miss Weybridge, it's so lovely to see you. She said, I am not Miss Weybridge. And I showed it to, I gave him the copy of the book and I just sort of showed it to him and said, gotcha.
It's a fair thing. I've trained all my kids to call me Kaz.
Call you what, sorry?
I've trained all the kids I teach to call me Kaz.
And do they like that?
Well, they mostly do it. I think this is also Donna has said that she loves my mum. She is funny. She's tiny and fierce. My mum. She's like a tiny, fierce southern lady.
Well, there are a lot of us around.
There is. But yeah, she's quite amusing. And she comes out with some zingers at times, but
yes, well, my mum was like that as well. She was lovely. And my mum's family all lived around Waterloo as well, so that's another area that I know well. So how I know the flats that are in Perdition's Child. I based it on one of the flats that I knew very well. An uncle lived in, and so
that must help having like that local knowledge of the area. If you've lived there all your life, it must help to. I know you say you go and visit the places, but you must have like a bank of kind of places that you can write about without needing to visit them.
Yes, yeah, and also, when you're describing the layout of a house or a flat, if you've got one in your mind that was there, it's so much easier to sort of say, yeah, you walked in, the tiny scullery kitchen there, the bathroom, it's really easy to know exactly where you are in a flat. Which is what I did, with the flat that Lucy was in. Because I knew it, so I could describe it quite. I described it from one I knew, because those blocks they're all the same, virtually. Built in the 30s.
So, do you create your own covers? You were saying you'd taken a photo of someone.
No. No, this cover, I've got a design guy I worked with on magazines, and because I wanted it, if you look at sort of like, it's very similar, with stage call, because I wanted it to. Those were all designed by Red Dog Books, and this is a new, this hasn't been published by anybody else. So no, I had a designer do this, that I had taken photographs to show him what and then he did all the design and the layout and formatting and all the rest of it. So no way would I be able to do anything like that.
Yeah, what is, because you were with Red Dog and sadly they're no more, are they?
No, but I left before then. I had my rights back before that happened.
Are you going to carry on self-publishing, or are you going to?
The reason that I self-published was the fact that because I had all my rights back, if I'd gone to another publisher, they would take a while to go through. If assuming it would be accepted by another publisher, they take a while to republish them all. And I just thought, actually, I can do it. I just want them to be there, and I didn't want the titles changed. And I think once you start changing the titles and change the covers too often, it's unfair, because I'm sure people don't. People sometimes buy the book again, because they just think, oh, it's. I mean, I saw one series of books and they've been completely. All the titles had changed, and I just thought, well, that sort of changes changes the sort of whole ethos of the books as well, really. So so the reason that I did that was to keep them around, as it were, keep them available. And then because I'd already started on Murder in the Lady Chapel, it seemed sensible to, nobody would take that. Well, I don't think there are many publishers who would take a sixth book in a series, on its own. So that. But anything else I did, I would probably, I don't know, I might try somewhere else, or just go into self-publishing. I mean, self-publishing is a lot of hard work. That and it's often bits that you really don't like doing.
Yeah, like the advertising and
you have to do things like ads and things that I haven't got a clue. You know what I mean? It's sort of, there are lots of things that I don't know anything about, and it's a very steep learning curve to do. But people do it, and some people do it extremely well.
some do. Do you have any launch events planned, or have you had any launch events?
I had one in a local pub. So it was on the 1st of December, actually. So it's a week after it was out, and that was great. Loads of people came to that and bought books, so that was good. And then and then on the 9th of December, I went to the local church, St John's, had carols by the green, and I said, well, please can I have a stall? Please can I have a table and sell my books, because it's it's perfect for the Lady Chapel, and it was lovely. So I got pictures with me and Santa, so to promote Christmas and the book, and there also happened to be 4 police officers in there who were very kindly agreed to be photographed with the books as well. So that was very useful. Yeah, and I've got I've done various interviews and things I've got coming up. A local paper did a nice piece on me, and so I've got a few things coming up in the new year.
That's good. Good to know.
Yeah.
And you're always welcome to come to talk to us.
Well, that's really lovely. Thank you.
You're one of our people who will have back any time.
Oh, that's so kind.
Sam is saying thank us both for a brilliant hour, because we are running out of time.
Right. Right. Thank you so much.
We're not completely out of time. We're not completely out of time.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you my favourite question, which is, what are your favourite books of the year so far?
Oh, that is so hard. That's really horrible. What have I really enjoyed this year? I'm just trying to think. I have read. Well, I really like Victoria Dowd's books, The Smart Women, and so I think it was what was it? Ice Cold Body, or I'm really.
I think it's like Murder Most Cold.
Yes. I really enjoyed that. So that was one of my favourites this year. I can't think of anybody else. I mean, some I don't always read crime necessarily either. So they
don't have to be crime.
No, okay. So I also read. I read a lot of children's and young adults books, and so Finding Ben was really lovely. And I won't remember the woman's name, but it's published by HarperCollins, and that was beautifully written and set actually in roughly the same place as Victoria's book, which is just quite. I never even knew the place existed. Svalbard or something, but to have read 2 books set there seemed rather a coincidence. So I read quite a lot of children's books that I really, really enjoy, and I read some non-fiction. So yeah, I don't really want to sort of pinpoint anybody else's really.
Fair enough. No, that's fine.
I know Hannah Beckerman's The Forgetting. I loved that. That was really good. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Some good recommendations for us.
Yes, there you go. Yes, and that is a crime. That's crime as well. So of the type. I mean, crime's such a broad genre, so there's so many different types of crime, I suppose, as well. But it was very good. I loved it. Really enjoyed it. So I did read one book which I won't name, and I bought it ages ago, and I started reading it, and there just seemed to be there was a hole in the plot that I saw right from the beginning, and I thought, and it really ruined it for me. You know, I kept thinking, nobody else picked up on this, because it just made a nonsense of somebody not knowing somebody else, or pretending they didn't know somebody else when they did. You know, because that was the plot hole that they'd left, which they should have been more careful about. And I think because I used to work for Reader's Digest, you know, I used to abridge books, and I used to find so many holes in books that had been published as well, mainly, you know. But it does make me much more careful, I think, myself, when I'm doing things, because, you know, it's sort of like, and I hate it when you find somebody takes their coat off twice, you know, in the space of 2 paragraphs, or they pick up a glass and then they put it down and the next time they pick it up, it's a plastic mug. You know, I find that really irritating. So that puts me.
Fair enough. And then in the few minutes that we've got left, remind everyone what they're going to go away and buy. So if they're new to the series, tell us about book 1, and then tell us about the newest book as well.
Okay, so we start with a run through. Dances in the Wind is number 1, when we're introduced to Hannah Weybridge at King's Cross. Number 2 is Death's Silent Judgment at Waterloo, when she finds her best friend dead in the crypt of the church. Songs of Innocence looks like a young woman has committed suicide in Peckham Rye Park, but that she had no reason to kill herself, and she did not commit suicide. Tradition's Child goes back to the children who were sent over to Australia, and this is a group of men who come back to find their birth families. I've lost one. No, I haven't. This is the one that you appear in.
It is, yeah.
Stage Call, which happens at the Old Vic, which is one of my favourite theatres, when I'll be going to on Friday to see Christmas Carol, which I do every year. So that was that one. And last but not least, number 6 in the series, which was out a couple of weeks ago, Murder in the Lady Chapel. Please buy them all.
I heartily recommend buying them all. It's a really good series.
Thank you.
Very good. Donna, I think this is saying that she already wanted to add your books to her TBR because you're so lovely, but she'll make sure she does it now.
Thank you.
Which is a nice way to end, isn't it?
It is. It's a lovely place, and a good time to wish everybody a very happy Christmas.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.